Welcome to Live Chat. It's Michael Savage again. And what I'm going to do for you today is a continuation of what I did for you, I believe, yesterday, thoughts on Easter and Passover, but it's going to be much shorter. And what I'm going to do for you today is what I did for you yesterday, but a little bit more. It's real simple. The world's on the precipice of an apocalypse. Is Putin the Hitler of our time, and Zelensky, who? The Moses, the Jesus? Who is he? How did a vulgar comedian named Zelensky, now don't get me wrong, whatever you do, please don't get me wrong, but when I see Jake Tapper, one of the worst people in the history of the American media, glorifying Zelensky, turning him into some great hero, when I know that that is the furthest thing from the truth, when I see that as near as 2 weeks ago, Zelensky was looking for peace, saying he would not join NATO. He would not seek to take back the Donbass region and the other regions of eastern Ukraine being claimed by Russia. Now, I'm not taking a position on this. I'm just referencing the realities of this precipice of World War III. 2 weeks ago, he was ready to settle. Now he said we won't give back an inch of territory. Get prepared for a nuclear war. Who is behind Zelensky? And I will tell you this, as a secular Jew myself, I am not a religious man, but I was born Jewish and I will die Jewish, or I'll be buried Jewish. I'm a lapsed Jew. It's a phrase I got from my Catholic friends who call themselves lapsed Catholics. Those are people who respect their religion but don't practice it very much. As a lapsed Jew, I will tell you Zelensky is the worst type amongst my people. That's my opinion. That is one man's opinion. I do not understand how so many right-minded people can fall for this bullshit, pardon me, put out by the American media, the same media that said Russia collusion, Trump evil, all of the lies that were found to be and proven to be nothing but lies, led by Jake Tapper and the minions of lies. The ministers of propaganda are now telling us Zelensky is the equivalent of a religious figure. How can you believe this? This is not saying Putin is a hero. I am not on his side. Listen to me carefully. There is much more to this than meets the eye. And I want to go back to 2014 when that SOB, John McCain, who you all hated, by the way, at the time, went to Ukraine and stirred up a revolution. It's called the Maidan Revolution. There was a duly elected leader who was, let us say, friendly to Russia, but he was elected. And this guy, McCain, went over there and stirred up a revolution. The same way Pelosi went to Berkeley and said, be a disruptor. They are all left-wing, fanatical disruptors of the world. So now, all of a sudden, this perverted comedian, Zelensky, who has been shown on video playing the piano with his penis, which I have never watched, but I know it exists. He is a degenerate vaudevillian. Now he's thrown on the world stage. What world leader appears in an undershirt every day to make believe he's a tough guy in a bunker somewhere? Who does a thing like this unless he's an actor? But what's even worse is that I believe Zelensky is mentally deranged and can destroy the whole world. When a man says, get ready for nuclear war, when he has the power to say, I'm overwhelmed, I'm overpowered, let's make a deal, let's settle this, please, Mr. Biden, come out, let's do something for world peace. Instead, he says, we'll fight to the last Ukrainian, we won't give up an inch of soil. I don't think you understand what this means on a day like today, this Easter. It means an awful lot. Is your knowledge base large enough to know how many Russians have been killed in the war against Ukraine since 2014? I've seen estimates of 14,000. I've seen 20,000. I've seen stories of atrocities by the Azov Brigade, who are the Nazi right-wing fanatical nationalists who are behind Zelensky, and they're very smart. This nationalistic, fascistic, Nazi Azov battalion is so smart that they're using a Jew to do their bidding. Everyone says, wow, Zelensky. This is the worst thing that's happened to the Jews in hundreds of years, if not 1,000 years. Because mark my words, no matter how this ends, and it will not end well, even if it ended tomorrow, it won't end well. We're going to have massive food shortages come next autumn. This is springtime, it's planting season. Nothing's being planted in Ukraine. You heard about corn shortages, wheat shortages. You heard about livestock shortages now. Wait until you see the Americans going like cattle to buy their pork and their meat, and they don't have any next year. Wait until you see what happens in Europe. Who's going to get blamed? The Jews, because of Zelensky. He could have done this without wearing the Jewish card, playing the Jewish card, wearing the Jewish badge. I don't know any secular Jews who run around saying, I'm a Jew, I'm a Jew, I'm a Jew, I'm a Jew. What is he doing this for? Listen, I thought very carefully about doing this video, and I said there's nothing to be gained by this. There's no percentage in this for you, Michael. People will misinterpret what you're saying. They'll make you wrong no matter what you say. I know that. Why must he tell the world every other day, I'm a Jew, meaning Zelensky? What the hell does that have to do with anything? This is not a Jewish versus a Christian war, but that's what he's trying to turn it into. And mark my words, when this is all over, those who suffer will be the Jews in Ukraine, in Russia, in Europe, and in America. There'll be a wave of anti-Semitism unlike any we have seen in 70 years because of this perverted comedian. Again, I will say again what I said earlier in my appeal for peace. Mr. Putin, settle this deal. You don't have to blow them off the map. You don't have to annihilate 30,000 of their troops who you've sucked into the Eastern Corridor, which is what he's doing. I did a podcast on this. It's classic Russian strategy. Look weak, look broken, look like you're losing. Suck the best of their troops into a pocket, surround them and annihilate them. That could be happening, couldn't it? So why is Zelensky the hero of Jake Tapper, of all people? Jake Tapper, one of the biggest liars in the history of the American media, if not the worst of all of them. A self-righteous, sanctimonious phony. Jake Tapper today glorifies Zelensky as the second coming of Jesus and has to overemphasize again that Zelensky's a Jew. He's not doing the Jewish people a favor. He's not doing world peace a favor. He's doing no one a favor. Jake Tapper is the lowest of the low. So the Azov battalion is very smart. They're very smart people. They're using a Jew as their front man so that people can't say that they're Nazis. You get it? None of you understand. Some of you may understand this, and some of you may agree with me. Many of you are shocked and saying I'm wrong. I have friends in the military who are great men who are no longer my friend because they've fallen for this hook, line, and sinker. People who in the past should have been able to read through propaganda are now banging the war drums. So I, one man, what do I have, 5,000 to 10,000 people will view this YouTube video. I've been shadow banned by Facebook, Twitter, YouTube from the day I began. How could I, a man who had millions of followers when I was on the radio, have only 10,000 people watch a YouTube video? Because I'm shadow banned by the third world people who run Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, people who come from places like Bangladesh, India, who really don't have a First Amendment. They don't respect the First Amendment. They don't want a First Amendment. They want to be the First, Second, Third, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment, which of course leads back to why they don't want Musk to buy into Twitter. They want a total, absolute totalitarian control of the view. Now, I do not know if any of you agree with me or not. I know that this is a very difficult subject for all of us. Anyone who is human and sees the destruction in Ukraine cannot have sympathy for the Ukrainian people. It is said that up to 10 million people have been displaced from their homes. 3 to 4 million are now living outside their country, mainly women and children. Terrible humanitarian disaster. So now we hear that Zelensky every day, get ready for nuclear war! Nuclear war! Nukes, nukes, nukes! Get ready for nuclear war! I just got a shipment of fresh undershirts in from Brooklyn. Every day another set of fresh undershirts with the military insignia on his undershirt. What kind of world leader is this? Why is he not suing for peace? He's getting his ass kicked. I know that they lost a heavy cruiser, the Russians. It went down, whatever the reasons, who knows? It was sunk by our missiles, by the way, meaning we're meddling again in a situation that can get very quickly out of control tomorrow. Whose missiles were those that sank that Russian battle cruiser? U.S., U.K.? Raytheon made them? Who made them? You think the Russians don't know? This is throwing kerosene on a raging fire. Military-industrial complex. The great General Eisenhower warned us. Beware the military-industrial complex. And here we're watching the military-industrial complex. Their stocks are going through the roof. They're salivating over the weapons orders that are coming in, that are going to be coming in from NATO. Countries that didn't want to be militant are now militant. Finland, Norway, Sweden are arming to the teeth. And we have a commander-in-chief who ducked his tail, ran out of Afghanistan, left $75 billion in advanced equipment on the ground. Men were killed, women were killed. Women are being raped now in Afghanistan. That's the commander-in-chief who shakes hands with the air. Whoever's pulling his strings, and believe me, we all know who they must be. We've heard Obama, we've heard all the names. You could pretty much be sure that Obama's hand is involved in all of this. The same man who gave us the maiden revolution in Ukraine, overthrew the Russian-friendly president using that moron, John McCain, who looked like the Manchurian Candidate to me. I met him only once at a boxing match in Las Vegas. I went up to him. He had the stare of the Manchurian Candidate. Hi, Cindy, this is Michael Savage. Like weird. It was like the Manchurian Candidate. It wasn't right. Now, what do you think is going to happen in the very near future? Now, that if you believe the propaganda of the West, that Putin's back is to the wall, and we don't know if that's true. We know he's lost an awful lot of mechanized equipment using our great technology. Thank you, Raytheon. You've tested it on the battlefield. You did your job. Good job. Your orders must be pouring in from all of the nations that once neutral. Good job, Raytheon. Very good salesmanship. Blowing up all those old tanks and armored personnel carriers. You're showing the world what violence can do. Meanwhile, in America, we have a crime wave out of control. Mainly minorities. 98, 99% minority crime wave. Who's saying that? Very few people are saying it. Every day, another Asian pushed down to the ground. Another Asian punched in the head. Another woman thrown on a railroad track. Another shooting on the subway. You couldn't even find that story in the San Francisco newspapers to show you how brainwashed the morons are in the Bay Area. Cops can solve the crime wave, we know that. But their hands have been tied, they've been neutralized by the vermin on the left with the Black Lives Matter lie. Black Lives Matter is a criminal enterprise. Slowly but surely you're coming to understand that with the one who bought the mansions and then said, how dare you tell everyone I bought mansions with the money under a shell company? How dare you tell anyone that? That's racism! The punchline for everything is racism when you catch one of those types. And there are many types like that in all races. Unfortunately for them, there are too many of them in Black Lives Matter. So to conclude my Easter sermon, many of you, what time is it now? 10 after 1 here on the West Coast. So it's you had your big fat Easter dinner. You had your ham. You had your ham. You had your ham today. Tonight, what are you eating? What do you eat tonight? More ham. What's going on in the world? You ate eggs today, you ate a ham, you had a few drinks, and Zelensky screaming, nuclear war, get ready for nuclear war. And Jake Tapper turns him into the second coming of Christ, Zelensky. Where are the voices for peace? Which world leader has called for peace recently? There are none. None. I don't see any. Biden who shakes hands with the air, I don't ask anything of him. He should be in an old age home being taken care of. This is a crime against the senior citizen. It's senior abuse what the Obama minions are doing to Biden. Biden's always been a pocketbook carrier. He's always been a sub-carrier. Always been a carrier for more powerful people. A schmendrick. Good actor, one of the best. Terrific actor. He's a better actor than Zelensky, by the way. At least Biden doesn't have any pictures of him playing the piano with his putz in his past. At least he never did that. He just faked everything else he's ever done. And by the way, while I'm at it, where is Jill Biden? Has anyone seen her recently? Where has she gone? Where has she gone? Where is Mrs. Robinson gone? Don't know. All of a sudden, she's not on the stage. For those of you wondering what those figures are above me, I get some people say, what's that? That's an ironwood carving from a listener of mine from over 10 years ago of an eagle. And to the right is the RCA dog. I bought one. There aren't too many around from the radio days when they had the RCA dog. And behind me is my humble abode. In front of me is the audience. And remember what I'm saying to you. Things are not what they appear to be. Please study before you take a firm opinion on all of this. And please pray for peace. You say, what the hell are prayers? Prayer going to do? Prayer is nothing. I would argue to the contrary. Prayer works. How do I know? I have the faith that it works. Can I prove it works? I have the faith that it works. Ask me again, can I prove that prayer works? I have the faith that it works. Look up the root of the word faith. It's different than the word belief. I wrote a book called God, Faith, and Reason. Remember that book? Why do you think I chose those words so carefully? It's one of the best books out there. I don't even know if it's in print. God, Faith, and Reason. Faith and reason. I have the faith that prayer works. Then why is God letting so many Ukrainians being killed? So many Russian soldiers being killed? Why does God let little children get leukemia and suffer? See these ads for the Children's Hospital doing miraculously beautiful work. It can kill you when you see these little children with their hair shaved off from cancer. You could scream with pain for them, right? Why does God do that? There's one answer, and I'm going to give it to you today. I learned it from a book I read many years ago where I would be absolutely not believing in God anymore. You ready for this? It was a rabbi, I don't know who wrote it. He wrote a popular book. And he said that if I believed that God was omnipotent and let all these bad things happen, I would cease believing in this God. He said, I don't believe God is omnipotent. I believe God is omnipresent. And what happens is chance and man's acts. However, I, Michael Savage, believe something a little differently than that. God's a busy guy. He's got a lot of universes to run up there. And your little problems don't really matter to him. 7 billion people on the planet, he's worried about your hemorrhoids. 7 billion people on the planet, I think he's got bigger problems, like preventing the world from being blown off its axis by the maniacs running the world right now. But he's around. And I think that there's sometimes that we can tap into his energy. You hear what I said? I think that there's a way to like pray into that energy, to thread the needle, like a camel going through the thing. I think there's a way to thread the needle to God. Many religions have done it in different ways. Religions you call pagan religions tap into God, God's energy. I have a friend right now who is a rabbi, by the way, but he's on an Indian reservation. He goes every year. He's the only white man allowed on that reservation for their ceremonies around this time of year. You're telling me they're not tapping into God with their peyote? You're telling me they're not reaching God their way? Not through gefilte fish and horseradish, but through peyote. That's a bit of a joke in the midst of a non-jokey thing. You're telling me all those nights I sat and drank Yangona, Kava Kava, Piper Methysticum in the villages in Fiji, that was an accident? I wasn't sent there by God? and I didn't speak to these people, these Fijian people who've been on those islands, self-sustained for 20,000 years or more, after washing up ashore in some canoe. They built cultures and civilizations. From Queens, New York, what was I doing there in those villages, sitting alone in those villages at night? I almost fell off a cliff once. I told you that story. I know God's hand saved me. I've had it happen many times. So I sometimes believe, by the way, and this is a tough one to tell you because it sounds very elitist and arrogant, I don't believe God talks to all of us. I don't think God cares about all of us. I don't think so. I think some of us were picked, not a whole race, but some of us in all races are chosen by God to do his work and be his messenger. By saying it's me, I'll let you decide. It's not for me to decide. I turned 80 years of age a few weeks ago. I never thought I'd make 40. At 40, I never thought I'd make 50. At 50, I thought I'd never make 60. I've been obsessive about health and stuff for years. I wrote books 40 years ago on the dangers of toxins in food. I wrote about things that you're just learning about now. I wrote about vitamins in the 1970s. Many books, Herbs That Heal, books about herbal medicine. Because I was chosen to do these things and live almost in isolation my whole life. I have a wonderful family, but I'm alone most of the time. That's the way God wants me to be. God wants me to be here. When I almost died a couple of years ago, and I was being wheeled in, and all I saw were the overhead lights, I was praying, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kavod Le'olam Va'ed. The Shema, Jew says that when he's dying, he prays to God. But I also did the Christian prayer. I did the prayer to God in English and in Hebrew. After it was over, the wonderful surgeon, I only had a stent, not a big deal, but he said I almost died. He said to my wife, he said, your husband was mumbling as we wheeled him into the operating theater. Mumbling. I was mumbling to God. That's my mumbo jumbo to God, Hebrew and English. In other words, prayer is mumbling to a scientist. If they don't believe in God, they don't believe in prayer. And those of us who walk on both sides of the street believe in science and God. Science and God. You can believe in both. It's not a dichotomy, it's a reality. You get it? You understand what I'm saying to you? It's a dichotomy reality. Yeah, it sounds like a spell. Oh, I don't believe in God. Oh, I do believe in God. I believe in science. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in science. I only believe in God. I believe in science and I believe in God. And on those words, yes, true science is the real God. I wrote this when I was 18. God is science, is DNA. That was a long time ago. It was when Watson and Crick unraveled the double helix. I was in 1950s. Could you imagine that? Shortly thereafter that, see, I entered Queens College in 1959, I think. I don't remember. That was a long time ago. I was 18 years old or something. They were geniuses, Watson and Crick. Great geniuses. They unraveled the double helix. Do you know what happened to one of them? He was thrown out of his position at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute because he said some things 15 to 20 years ago that were considered against the code of communism. He said something about blacks and something about Jews that was not acceptable. And they threw this great Nobel Prize winner out of his position. He was canceled long before you heard about the word being about cancellation. That's what they did to one of the great minds of our time. So my legacy to you is borders, language, and culture. That's my DNA to you. I've given you the DNA for this nation. That's the double helix of every nation on earth, whether it's Tonga, Thailand, Ukraine. Isn't it funny how all of these schmuck liberals have Ukrainian flags on their front lawn now? and they wouldn't be caught dead having an American flag. These are the same people who spit on the American flag. They're now screaming for borders, language, culture of Ukraine. Ukraine, go to war for Ukraine. Our border has been destroyed by this criminal gang of the Biden gangsters. Don't get me started on that one. I don't know if this country can ever survive what this Biden gang is doing to this country. Every country on earth is defined by its DNA, which is borders, language, and culture. Except this gang of internationalist communists. They're destroying our country. The only thing that will save us after Biden, if there is an after Biden gang, is a leader who will deport everyone who has been legalized from the day this administration started legalizing the world. That will almost never happen. Borders, language, culture. Every liberal that hates borders goes home, locks their door, and kisses a Ukrainian flag and screams for nuclear war. One last note about faith in God, if I may. I'm going on too long. Excuse me. It's 26 minutes. I hope this gets posted. I don't know. So about a month after I had gotten, they call it your incident. I don't want to go back and forth with this. I had the incident. So for a month, actually, if it was a year after I didn't sleep, I was afraid of dying every night. 2 years, 3 years, I still have issues. You fear it, that's all. But for the first month or two, you're really scared. So I had, it was pains. I didn't know what it was. So I went in, the doctor said, you better go in. We can't decipher it on the phone. I went after the whole thing. After 8 hours, they test your blood, see if it was another heart attack. So I was waiting in the whatever room they put you in. I was, hours have to wait. And there had been a large black lady in the outside, I think she was at the front desk. I happened to say hello to her, and I took a glance in her eyes on the way in. Since I spent so many years amongst African-descended people in the Fiji Islands, I can read people's faces very well. I knew she was from Africa, number one. I could almost pick the exact country she was from and almost the exact region of the country. I didn't say a word. So for whatever the reason is, the secretary came into me in the recovery room while I was waiting to find out. And we talked, and she asked me what I do. I never told her, I'm Michael Savage, radio host. I said, I write books and I give lectures on the radio sometimes. And she looked at me very carefully and she says, you're not ready. You have a lot of work to do. And then I asked her where she's from. I didn't tell her that I knew. I got chills down my spine right now. She looked right through me. I looked right through her, just as those nights in those villages with the Fijian people when we would drink Yangona and our faces would disappear and all that were left were our eyes and our souls talking to each other. And the Fijians would say, I don't think he's American. I think he's Fijian. And the other guys would say, yes, he's Fijian, meaning I was one of them. They were one of me. We are all one together, as the Beatles said. Peace, shalom, may God save the world from the evil men who could destroy it. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Michael Savage. Whoops. One man alone.